Recently, there have been many incidents of police shooting and killing suspects during law enforcement in the United States, including demonstrations in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, Oakland, California, Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Illinois, and Washington, D.C. Part of the demonstrations turned into violent incidents. According to statistics from the American nonprofit organization American Gun Violence Archives, since March 16, there have been at least 45 mass shootings in the United States. On April 11, U.S. Minnesota policeman Porter accidentally killed an African-American man, Dante Wright, in traffic law enforcement, triggering protests and demonstrations in many places. On April 12, protesters clashed with police and the National Guard outside the police station in Brooklyn, Minnesota, USA. The protests were relatively peaceful at first, and later some protesters stood on a truck equipped with flashing lights to communicate with others. But later the protesters started throwing various unidentified objects into the fence of the police station. On the afternoon of April 17, dozens of Brooklyn Center doctors, nurses, and local medical school students even joined the protest rally to protest the local police's use of rubber bullets, tear gas and other equipment to disperse the protesters. Fauci, the chief medical advisor of the U.S. government and director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, also stated in an interview with U.S. media on the 18th that, apart from the COVID-19 epidemic, gun violence in the U.S. is also a public health emergency. American people's trust in the police is falling to a low point. The root of the violent law enforcement by the U.S. police lies in the deep-rooted racism of white supremacy. In recent years, as the monopoly capital controlled by upper-class whites has caused unfair distribution of wealth in the process of globalization, some middle and lower-class white Americans feel that they have lost their dominant position in society. Therefore, the white supremacy and racist forces in the United States have been expanding and are going to extremes and violence. U.S. law enforcement agencies also acknowledge that in 2018 and 2019, the main causes of the deadliest violent activities in the United States were racism and populism, and called them the most persistent and deadly threats to violent extremism in the United States. The more frightening threat is that these white supremacist racists are likely to take full control of the U.S. government and seriously affect social order and public security. However, what is even more frightening is that this set of theories is becoming an ideological weapon for a very small number of white American elites to undermine democracy, and it is also a subconscious law that supports them to undermine world peace. In fact, the order described by many officials in the United States is essentially the order of white supremacy and racism, and it is precisely one of the root causes of the inability of the United States to be safe.